Energy is part of our conversation this morning as we head to the commodity space with Mr. Bismarck Rewane, the Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company. Mr. Rewane, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Inia. Thank you for having me this morning.
Good. So we saw oil production decline, even though we're still leading on the continent, but we lost about 600,000 barrels per day in the last month. I mean, it shouldn't come as a surprise. We've seen a lot of disruptions in the Niger Delta areas where crude production should take place. And incidentally, this happens in the period where we see a drop in the price of oil. I must say, the revenue of the country has been harmed already.
Thank you, Ini. Actually, the decline is 60,000 barrels, not 600,000 barrels. With 600,000 barrels decline, we would have been out of business altogether. We'd be underwater. So 60,000 barrels, and but that is interesting because we are now the leading OPEC producer in Africa. But don't forget, Angola is no longer a member of OPEC, if my facts are correct. Therefore, we are ahead of Congo and Nigeria. But that's fine. The reality is that we are in a global situation where the exception has become the rule. In other words, everybody's devices, computers, handsets, and all have been exempted. So the president of the United States changes his mind, and he calls it flexibility. So there's no problem with that. But what it does tell you is that you have to plan on a scenario-based approach. In other words, if today this is exempted, then you plan for that. If something is not exempted, but the point is that when the unknown unknowns, like we always say, are more than the known unknowns, then the uncertainty increases. If the uncertainty increases, then the probability that you could have a recession also increases, and that itself weighs down on investment and people making final investment decisions because they do not know what is going to happen and when people's minds are going to be changed. But having said that, if we go back to what the discussion we had last week on this program, I said that there will be a change of mind. I said that many of the things that were going down will be going up, and in the long term, right, you know that generally speaking, if you do nothing, in over a 5-year period, you get the same return as if you did something. So there are times there's a benefit in being patient, and there's also the benefit in being active. So that's what we are seeing right now. So for Nigeria, I don't worry too much at $65 a barrel and producing at 1.4 million barrels, including condensates. That gives us enough room if we can use our resources efficiently and transparently. That is what's going to happen. That's going to lift us past the finish line.
Well, I'm glad you said use our resources transparently, Mr. Rewane. And thank you so much for that correction, 60,000 barrels and not 600,000, the difference between February and March production.
Yes.
But you say we may not have a lot to worry, but I mean, when we look at the numbers, we see 65 instead of 75. That's our target. I know that, was it last week or so, there was a conversation around with the minister hinting that they will be having conversation. Perhaps they have to take another look at some of those indices in the budget. I mean, that must mean that this $10 difference is something. This drop in the Naira is something. I mean, in the budget, it's 1,500. Now we've been seeing 1,006 for over a week now. These must mean something to our plan for the year.
No, definitely, Ini, you're right. I think the viewers must know two things. One is that the price is one parameter. That is, the benchmark price is $75, and the going price is $65. You're underwater to the extent of almost 15%. One. Two, the production in the budget was 2 million barrels. You are at 1.4 million barrels. Right? So immediately it's 600 over 2, so you know immediately that you're almost 20% below. So when you add revenue is price and volume. So both on the volume side you're down, on the price side you're down. So this is a challenge. What happens in such circumstances? Normally, you either cut back your expenditure, or you put forward a supplementary budget to Parliament to increase your borrowings to meet your objectives. So these are tough times. But on the good side is that at $65 a barrel, now we're selling petrol at 92 naira per 920 naira per liter, and diesel at 1,050. And that was based on maybe $70 a barrel. Now we might begin to see, if all other things are equal, that we might see a reduction in the price of petrol because of that and logistics costs within Nigeria. But that's not enough. What Nigeria needs also is to optimize its revenue, use it efficiently, and like I said earlier, transparently, and also be consistent to endear yourself to investors who will bring money in, not foreign portfolio investors, but foreign direct investors, Nigerian investors, rather than investing outside, investing domestically, and therefore you would enjoy the investment multiplier effect on income and the linkages between that, between the businesses that are investing and the small and medium scale enterprises. So that way it becomes win-win. But it's a very hard road to travel, like they always say. It's a hard road to travel and a long time to wait.
Mm. And you talk about cutting expenses, which has been a conversation for a long time, but it doesn't seem like we see, or perhaps you've seen some efforts by this administration to cut down on expenses, cost of governance. People are saying how ministries should be cut down, but we've seen new ministries actually pop up. We've seen new appointments and all of that. And of course, the government or government representatives will tell you these are necessary steps to get the job done. So where else can we talk about cutting expenses or closing these leakages?
Let me take the expenses in order of priority. Number one, our largest expense is debt service, and we know that interest rates have increased. So to that extent, debt service is really hurting us. Number two is other incidentals and miscellaneous expenses. We have a lot of people in Paris having this summit right now. I'm not so sure what this summit is going to bring in terms of revenues and in terms of investments and all that. In fact, in Nigeria today, there's what we call a summit fatigue and conference fatigue. People just go for conferences and everywhere, every state is holding a summit, every state is having a conference. But if you try to correlate the amount of money spent on conferences and these soft costs and what the value we get, it will show you something that's quite alarming. Therefore, we need to be very deliberate about what we are spending on and what the value we get in return. There is too much waste and there's too much inefficiency and there's also too much opacity, right? So if those things happen, and we've said it so many times, so there's no, I mean, we are over-laboring the issue. The point is that what are we going to do about it? The president did announce cutting the number of people, delegates that go on to go to conferences. The president did announce a cutback and the relaunch of the Oronsaye report. The president did announce that it's going to be driving it's going to be pushing for an increase in revenue and optimizing of the revenues. But those were nice announcements. What we need to now is to ask the questions: what has happened ever since? How many people are in Paris for this conference? And how many of them are paid for by the government of Nigeria, both state and federal? How many people are in the city of London doing all of these things? It doesn't matter whether it is expensed or whether it is subsidized by private sources. Those things do not bring about increased productivity. And if there's no output increase, inflation begins to increase. And if inflation increases, growth begins to get retarded. And so these are the inconvenient truths, but we must tell ourselves the truth. If we are not willing to tell ourselves the truth, then, like we said, only the truth can set the people free, and we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to differentiate between analysis and propaganda, and we have to have the facts correctly so that we can make accurate decisions. But having said that, I'd like to take you on some other things that have happened. One is that inflation numbers are going to come out this morning or sometime this afternoon. From all the indications, inflation is going to slow to about 20, well, 3.18%, if I'm right. So we think that that is what's going to happen. The discussion is going to be: is this trend going to continue? Yes, we think the trend will continue, but it may actually inflect, in the sense that if you look at the breakdown, we expect that monthly inflation and core inflation is going to increase. And if that happens, it means that we are in for some turbulence in terms of inflation for the next 1 or 2 months. But after June or July, when the external turbulence in the global markets reduces, and there's more certainty as to what the direction of the variables are, we think that Nigeria will see a trend of lower inflation towards the end of the year. But right now, if inflation is trending downwards, but it's going to pick up again. If you look at the price of the goods that we see in the markets, you'll see that beans has come down by about 5% to 85,000. You see that vegetable oil has come down by another 2.6% to 19,000 naira. The price of flour, strangely enough, has increased by 8.3% to 65,000 naira. And Gary is also up from what I see here. The sugar price has come down by 1.23% to 80,000, and onions is up by 33% to 120,000. Pepper begins to defy all logic and gravity. Pepper is up because of the pepper disease to 230,000 naira a bag. So for those of you who depend on chili and chili sauce and spicy food, you have a challenge ahead of you. That's what we are seeing right now.
Yeah, Mr. Rewane, I think you were just talking to me there. Actually, I don't understand why, even when tomatoes, we see a decline in price, when it comes to peppers, it's still high up there. Maybe we have gotten too many members of the chili club, so the demand is too high.
The thing about chili, though, there's dry pepper, there's atarodo, there's all the other variants. But if you dry the pepper, you are not going to be able to dry tomatoes. Tomatoes is paste and puree and all of that. But for pepper, they come in different variants. But I think there's a disease, and it just shows you that the storage of pepper has been quite difficult. But and Nigerians are quite chilly. They like chili sauce, and they like their paste hot. But one point I want to make for you to viewers is that the dollar in the past month or two, against a basket of currencies, the dollar has lost almost 9 to 10%. So if we are at 1,600 to the dollar, we have lost about almost 5%. It means against all other currencies, we have lost almost 14 or 15%. That's the naira. Is it a good thing? It's not a bad thing, because the Chinese have also dropped the value of the currency. So competitive devaluation helps you make your exports more efficient and more competitive.
Yeah, but Mr. Rewane,
if you have nothing to export,
exactly. Yeah, because in the case of the yen, it was done intentionally,
yes,
to reduce the costs of their commodities. But I mean, for us, it's the consequences, and we don't really have control over it. Neither are we using the opportunity for exports.
No, we are. I mean, it's not visible, but we are. But one of it is that you see that Nigerians are coming back from abroad. Nigerian British schools are setting up shop in Nigeria. The number of people running out of the country are actually reducing. And there are some changes in behavioral patterns. The dependence on imported commodities is still high, but the reality is that our total imports, if you look at the data, our total imports have reduced. But because your imports have reduced, it means also your raw materials that are being imported have reduced, and activity and productivity is low.
Exactly.
So for now, this is a trying period for us. It's an adjustment period for us. And there's a fiscal adjustment, currency adjustment, and more than anything else, the mental adjustment to accept that we are not as rich as we used to be, and that we have some difficult days ahead.
I guess when the president comes back from Paris and the assessment exercise is over, maybe he would, toe the line of what you have just said. Nigeria is not as rich as we think that we are, and then we'll see some more intentional steps, to help us.
As we used to be, and we think we are, and so adjusting ourselves.
But those days are not so good. But Mr. Rewane, in spite of this, We see Fitch upgrading our outlook as a country. What does this mean?
Well, B, first of all, B is not investment grade, it's still junk status. Two, from negative outlook to stable outlook is good. Whether we like it or not, we are doing some right things. And more importantly, we are saying the right things. We are doing some of the right things, and we are reducing some of our bad habits of the past. But there's still a lot of bad habits. There's still the overhang of some of the the addictions that we have had, economic addictions to the bad practices of the past. It takes time to wean yourself off those addictions, but generally, the fact that we are talking about it, the fact that you said when the president comes back from Paris, he would have carried out as assessment and begin to implement new policies. I'm confident that he'll make some changes, and he has to definitely make some changes to the way things are going. We start the NNPC board was the first step, and that has to be followed by many other changes to make sure that we optimize the use of our people and that we put the right square pegs in square holes and round pegs in round holes.
All right, we do hope so, and we miss our president, and we hope you'll be back soon with those changes that we need. Thank you so much.
Hope is not a strategy. I'm sure he's going to implement some things. Thank you.
Well, hopefully. Thank you so much, Mr. Bismarck Rewane, Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company.
Thank you for having me.